Hey everyone, Dan here with Vivid Racing, and today we are going to show you how to get more power out of your Can-Am Maverick X3 with the all-new VRTuned ECU tuning box kit. No need to remove the ECU, no need to worry about warranty, it's plug-and-play power, so let's check it out. So let's talk about the Can-Am Maverick X3. This is a 2017 154 horsepower 3-cylinder turbocharged engine, extremely fast out of the box, much more unique and capable than the Polaris. In fact, these are all the rage right now. And guys want to know, how do you get more horsepower out of them? How do you make them handle better? And this is something that we've been doing for a long time here at Vivid Racing with our VRTuned line. And we're going to go deep into the aspects of what a tuning box is, how it works, and basic understandings of how we can make more power from this X3. So how does the tuning box work? Very easily. It's a plug-and-play solution that connects to the factory intake manifold pressure, boost pressure, and camshaft sensors. The harness that's included is all plug-and-play using factory connections. The harness is a Y style, which splits the sensor that goes into the car and into the wiring loom. This allows the digital microprocessor inside the box to take over the readings that the ECU would normally give it. With the change in readings, it's going to increase your boost pressure, it's going to change your timing, and the fuel will adjust as well. From this tuning box, we actually see a big change, about 10% horsepower increase. Coming with the 154 horsepower stock, we gain about 15 wheel horsepower on the Can-Am. It's a big difference. You're going to get in, you're going to plug it in, you don't have to do anything, it's going to go, and it's going to go really quick. Installing the harness is pretty easy in the Can-Am. All these sensors are easily located. Obviously, if you have some crazy cage or other stuff in the way, it might become an issue. But real simple, you have your boost pressure sensor, which is right before the throttle body. This can be accessed right through here. You have your intake manifold pressure sensor, which is right on top of the intake manifold. You can either get there from either side, or if you have to be changing the exhaust out at the same time. But if we go to the other side, you can get a better look at it. So you can see the sensor right there. So easily unplug that and then it splits in. Obviously right now the harness is plugged in, so you can see how it wires off and splits the sensor. You have one connection there, one connection there. So those two are easy. There's two ways to get to the camshaft sensor. You can either go through the access panel, which is right above the turbocharger, or you can reach back in through here. Now, the camshaft sensor is going to be the one towards the middle, the engine head up there. You'll see the same plug that's on the harness. Now, each one of the plugs, there are factory plugs, and they're designed to fit into each other the same like stock. But most importantly, is you need to make sure it's all the way pushed in and clipped in. Just because it feels snug doesn't mean it's in there. So you want to make sure you press it in all the way. So the last part of the installation before you mount everything is connecting power and ground. So on the loom, you can see it's got a basic fuse, and then it has a ground and the power. You can run those direct to the battery just as you would any type of light switch or zombie lights or whatever you're doing. Direct power, direct ground. And that's what's going to trigger the box to turn on and off. So what do you do with the tuning box once you plug in the harness? Well, this is a weatherproof, beat-up proof aluminum case. Obviously you don't want to drag it through the dirt, but once you get the wiring harness run through your vehicle, you're going to want to mount it somewhere nice and secure. So this main part of the tuning box plugs directly into the main plug on the harness. Without the tuning box plugged in and nothing plugged in the harness, the car won't run. Obviously each sensor, now that it's Y split into the harness, has to get some sort of reading. So if you don't want to run the tuning box because let's say you're at some high elevation, or you want to trick your friends and run it stock and then plug it in, you use the included jumper plug. Now the jumper plug has 4 wires for this tuning box. It simply plugs into the harness here, and that puts you back to stock. So it's basically creating a loop here to each one of these sensors, giving it a complete circuit. So when the harness is connected to the jumper, you're stock. If you plug the tuning box in, you are now 15 more horsepower to beat up on your friends. So now that we've showed you what the tuning box is, how it installs, the most important thing about this is what type of power it does. We're going to run this thing in both the stock and the tune configuration. Not only that, we're going to compare it to some of the other competitors' ECU flashes to see where it stacks up. So let's jump in, run a couple times on the dyno, and let you see the results for yourself. Let's talk about the dyno results now that we've run the vehicle a couple times. Before anything, when you talk about the Vivid Racing dyno, we use a Mustang all-wheel drive 800 model dyno. Now, along with this dyno and 91 octane, our actual wheel horsepower numbers are much lower than you'd see on a dyno jet or other ones. We typically have a 20 to 25% drivetrain loss that we see on these UTVs. Sometimes on other vehicles, even a 30% loss. When we run these, we can't calibrate by RPM. We run them by miles per hour. You can't hold it in third gear per se. So what we do is we run the test from a mile per hour start to finish and hammer it down. They rev all the way up, 7,500, 8,000, and hold that RPM until we hit that stop number. So our test that we do is typically from about 15 to 20 miles an hour with a stop at about the rev or the speed limiter, which on this car we went to 75 miles per hour. Now a tuning box, since it is designed to change the readings of what the signals are saying, we're not altering anything in the ECU like rev limiter or speed limiter. We're just giving you direct plug and play horsepower, real simple, strong, bolt-on plug-in system. Now we did a before and after test on this Can-Am. You can see here the dotted line is our stock line. Our solid line is with the tuning box. Red is horsepower, blue is torque. Now we have some really good gains here. We can see right about mid-level at 45 miles per hour, we're seeing a gain of about 13, 14 wheel horsepower. That then continues and carries. Up here, we're close to 120 rear wheel horsepower to right here, which is about 103. So we have a peak of almost 17 rear wheel horsepower at this mile per hour. Continuing further, you can see that the factory tune drops off. We see a drop off here in the higher RPMs where whether it's starving for air or the factory catalytic converter and exhaust is choking it up, it tends to fall down here. So at the very top, we see about a 95 mile per hour rear wheel horsepower, but with the tuning box, we're right about 115. So we're seeing about a 20 wheel horsepower gain. Because of the way the CVT transmission works, our torque is very linear. So you can see as soon as it kicks in here, we have a constant gain that goes all the way through. Now, some notable numbers here, we have 80 foot-pounds to almost 88 foot-pounds. Up here at the initial, when the torque comes in, we're right between 88 and 95, so figure about 90, 92 to going up to close to 100. Now we tested this on a 2017 Can-Am X3RS model. So whether it's an X3 or an X3RS, the difference in the stance, same gain, same performance. The new 2018 model that's out, which comes with 172 horsepower, the tuning box will work the same. Again, it's not based upon tuning the ECU, it's based upon changing the signals that go to those sensors. We haven't tested it on this at the time of this video, but we can and we'll show you equal aggressive gains. So overall, very happy with the overall performance of the tuning box. Boost levels increased, good air-fuel ratio, and very satisfied with how the power came on. Now, just doing some comparisons, obviously VRTuned, we also do ECU flashing. We're one of the only companies that can flash a tuned and stock file through the diagnostic port with our iFlash system. But the VRTuned tuning box gives you a simple, no-hassle way to plug and play, add horsepower, and not mess with your warranty. So we love to compare our system against others. No BS, no manipulation, just comparing. We've done several write-ups on our VRTuned.com website. So let's show you here. Now the VRTuned tuning box is the solid line. The small dotted line down here is our stock run. Here's the competitor's run right here. What we found interesting about this Stage 1 ECU flash is that it had this, how to explain it, a whomping type thing like belt slap or something. When we ran this flash with boost pressure, there was no change in boost pressure, but something was causing it, several runs, not one run. We did about 6 or 7 tests to oscillate like this in the power. You can see the difference with the VRTuned. It's a very solid power gain delivery all the way through the RPM and the mile per hour range. Follows very similar the stock curve. No issues with tuning, no hiccups. Again, it's going to adapt with any type of different octane. Put an exhaust on it, you're fine. But this is a good comparison to show what the plug-and-play tuning box does compared to one of the top competitors in their ECU flash. So it's a very strong, consistent gain over stock. These are good results. We're happy with the way the tuning box performs. At the end of the day, it's a great solution for the price. Something that's very easy to maintain, very easy to install, and the results speak for itself. A 10% increase in power over stock.